Right, time for another video. Get straight into it. This is every single driver on the F1 2020 grid, ranked from best to worst, worst to best. Best to worst. A little disclaimer, obviously, no one here is a bad driver. They're all Formula 1 drivers. It's incredibly difficult to get to Formula 1, so obviously they're all better than me. By a long way, and a lot better than 99.9% of the drivers in the world. So before people start saying I'm being too harsh, basically. So straight in, number 20. That little disclaimer that I've just said, that applies to all these drivers, except from number 20, Romain Grosjean. Now, I'm obviously joking, but Romain Grosjean, for me, the worst driver on the grid at the moment. I think he's very lucky to be on the grid. It's probably going to be his last year. But it's kind of a match made in heaven, Grosjean and Haas, because if Grosjean could be a car that's on the grid, he probably would be the Haas. Unreliable, clumsy, and slow. For real, he's his race pace, his one lap pace isn't that bad, but he's clumsy, and he's damn right dangerous at the moment. And for me personally, I don't like him, because the last few years, even when his car's not been too bad, he just complains and he moans, and I don't want to be listening to that personally. But it's the dangerous manoeuvres that we've seen this year that really need to see him off the grid. The one against Ricciardo at Silverstone was unacceptable, and that's why he's 20th. Up to 19th now, and I just thought I'd say I hope you like the graphics, the way they're going. It's taken me way too long to do these graphics on Photoshop. There's probably an easier way to do it, but at least I've got a template for the future for more videos like this. So 19th is Antonio Giovinazzi, the Italian, still a young driver, but I personally have never rated him at all. He could potentially get better. Like, he's younger than 25, isn't he? I'm not too sure. He's a baby compared to his teammate, who we'll get onto later. He's just, for me, he's just meh. He always has been meh. And on the back of Spa, he crashed out last week. It was a bit of a weird crash. Was it down to driver error? Was it down to the car? I'm not too sure, because both Giovinazzi and the Sauber are pretty crap. And I've written here, I think I've hit the nail on the head. It's just Marcus Ericsson Part 2. It's just an Italian Marcus Ericsson. Nothing against him. Sure, he's a lovely guy, but he isn't a great driver for me. Number 18, Nick Latifi. Arguably, could have put him bottom, but he comes 18th above Grosjean and Giovinazzi because I haven't seen him do anything wrong. I haven't seen him do anything right, but he's in the slowest car on paper. It's his first year, he's young, he's just out of F2. He's kept up with George Russell, I guess. It's just not been too bad. There's nothing I can really say on him. So 18th, 17th, the second Haas driver, which makes them the worst driver pairing on the grid, which isn't great for Haas. I'm sure they'll have a different driver lineup next year. But Kevin Magnussen, 17th. He's better than Romain Grosjean in pretty much every way. I think he's quicker. In fact, he's more arrogant than Grosjean. That's the thing that gets to me about Magnussen. He's arrogant over meh ability. He's way too aggressive in the past. I can't recall the time this year he's been too aggressive, actually, but it's probably because he's been 17th at best. And he's slightly inconsistent, but again, that could be down to the car. So 17th, Kevin Magnussen. 16th, Daniel Kvyat. I'm actually a little bit of a fan of Danny Kvyat. I thought he should have got the promotion to Red Bull last year, but obviously Albon, as we all know, got promoted. But this season he's kind of just had a quiet year. He's been outshone by Gasly. I think he's been outscored by him. He's, on his day, perfectly fine driver. Nothing world beating, but he's alright. He's been less accident prone lately, which I think is fair enough. You're in P15 or something and you see Kvyat going for the move, you are going to probably tense up, because he could just jump over the top of your car. And he's always going to have that reputation, unfortunately. So 16th for Kvyat. 15th, Kimi Raikkonen. Now, this might be slightly controversial because Kimi Raikkonen, obviously, on his day, mid-2000s, even early 2010s, world-class driver, unbelievable. Person I think was at his best in 2005, unlucky not to win the championship that year. His car kind of let him down that year, but I digress. He's a brilliant driver, but he's in his 40s now, and he's been slowing down for a good few years, and he's really ready for retirement, in my opinion. That's kind of it. His motivation, his pace is just going, and he's not the driver he used to be. So it's now time for the first controversial pick. Controversial for everyone else, but if you follow me on Twitter or seen any of my previous videos, you won't be surprised at this. 14th, Alex Albon. Just let that sink in for a second. Let the hate just be typed down in the comments at Alex Albon being 14th, because everybody loves him. Now I'm sure he's a lovely guy, but for me, he shouldn't be in that Red Bull. He's so slow. His qualifying pace has consistently been 6/10 on average off Verstappen, and we know the boy can overtake, but the problem is when he has overtaken cars, it's been much slower cars. Like Kimi Raikkonen at Silverstone, it was highlighted for me at Spa, and it just clicked. He hasn't got the race pace to get close enough to perform these overtakes, and for me, you can't teach speed, so he's not really got the potential for me. So he's 14th. 13th, unlucky for some, Lance Stroll. I've liked Lance Stroll for pretty much all of his F1 career. I think he's obviously got into sport because of money, but the boy's got a podium, and the thing that stuck out for me was when he got, front row, Monza 2017 in the wet. The boy can drive in the wet. I don't know why I keep calling him a boy, he's older than me. And I think he has potential. He's obviously still, I think he's the second youngest on the grid, and he gets so much hate for just having money. You don't choose where you're born into. Yeah, he's fortunate having the money to get in the seat, but I think he's proved that he has pace, to be honest. And he's ahead of Checo in the championship this season so far. I know Perez missed 2 races, but he's up there, and for me, he's not as bad as everyone says he is. So 13th for Stroll now, and maybe you could argue this is a little bit low. George Russell is 12th. His reputation is the only reason he's up this high for me, because I haven't actually seen anything of him. He's good in quali. He is good in quali with that Williams. He gets into Q2 quite regularly this season, and he did at Hungary last year as well, didn't he? I think he definitely didn't qualify in the back row at Hungary last year in the worst car I've ever seen. That 2019 Williams was really a dog, a massive dog, because the cars are absolutely huge these days. But the only time I root for George Russell. I want him to do well. The only time I've seen him in a race do anything is when he crashed out, or kind of crashed out at Austria. He went off the track on the first lap. So I've not really seen much of him. It's on his reputation alone. Right, so 11th is Pierre Gasly, top 3 driver of the season, easily so far this season. He's been brilliant, and one thing that's really stood out to me that's just happened this past weekend at Spa, the overtake on Perez in a car that clearly has less power, going up Eau Rouge into Radion. Fantastic. It was the one area I didn't know if Gasly had, was overtaking ability, and I think he proved that, and he proved the fact that he has balls the size of cannonballs, because I clenched watching that. I held my breath for a solid 30 seconds and then screamed for another when he pulled off that move, so fair play to him. The guy's quick as well in the AlphaTauri. I give him the benefit of the doubt that he just had no confidence, and it snowball affected. Snowball affected? It snowballed last year at Red Bull, so I hope for him. I actually think he should be put back in that Red Bull, but that's a different issue, and a lot of people won't agree with me. So 11th for Gasly. Now into the top 10, and I tell you what, it gets difficult from here to the top 10. From here to the first was difficult to do because you could swap probably the next 5. You could probably swap them around in any order until we get to the top 5. But 10th Esteban Ocon. I've made this list twice. He was a lot lower first time round because I was very sceptical of him. But he's proved at Spa, he's got pace. He overtook a faster car in the Red Bull, but a slower driver. And he had a solid weekend at Spa. And he's not too far off Danny Rick. Danny Rick is a quality driver in himself. He obviously matched Perez at Racing Point / Force India. It's just a history of his bullishness and aggressiveness that originally had him lower down the list. But there's nothing wrong with being aggressive. It's when you're overly aggressive it becomes an issue. If you find the balance, like Verstappen for example, it can work in your favour. 9th position. His ex-teammate of Ocon, Sergio Perez. And I've written notes for all of these and I haven't really got any for Perez. I've got 1 line and I've written 3 or 4 for everyone else. He's consistent. He's just consistent. He's not the quickest, he's not the slowest. He's probably the 9th fastest guy on the grid and he's in 9th. He's just reliable. And he's very good with his tyres actually. He's always been brilliant on the tyres, so he opens up strategy brilliantly there, Perez. So, P9. Time for some potential controversy again, because in P8 I've put Sebastian Vettel. I should have mentioned at the start of the video that this isn't solely based off this year, but it's kind of based off like an accumulation of the last 3 to 2 years. And Vettel, since the back end of 2018, has not been the same driver. Obviously this year the 2020 Ferrari is absolutely shocking, and I think he had a very good weekend at Spa. I think he finished ahead of Leclerc, did he? He just isn't the dominant force he used to be. He used to ruin my weekend watching him in 2013. I put on Twitter recently, I didn't realise how dominant he was. He won 8 races in a row at the end of 2013. From Italy onwards, he won every race for the rest of the season. And he just isn't that man anymore. As we know, he spins. It's just... yeah, it's sad. It's just not the same driver at the moment. Maybe he could bounce back, but I honestly think he'll retire at the end of this year. So yeah, P8. The next 2, P7 and P6, it was a toss of a coin where they were coming. So I'm going to do them together. Sainz is in P7, Norris is in P6. Both drivers are as quick as each other. I think it was 50-50 the qualifying last year, wasn't it? Or it was 10-11. The qualifying stats last year for Sainz and Norris. Sainz obviously got a podium last year through penalties. Norris again through penalties gets a podium this year, and that is kind of why I've put Norris ahead of Sainz, just because he's got a podium more recently. I think he's had a better season so far. He's P5 in the championship, P6, P5. He's high in the championship than Sainz anyway. And Norris is younger, I think has more potential, arguably. Carlos Sainz has been in the sport for 5 years now and has deservedly got a move to Ferrari. I'm betting he wish he didn't have. But Norris' second year is matching Sainz and he's younger. So that's why Sainz is in 7th and Norris is in 6th. Onto the big boys now, and it's in 5th. Again, people may disagree with this. I'll take that back. People will disagree with this. No one's going to agree that it's going to be in 5th. It'll be either lower or higher. But in 5th is my computer being smashed by my paper. In 5th, Valtteri Bottas. He's obviously in a top team. He's in the Mercedes, so he's obviously a very good driver. Mercedes wouldn't hire Alex Albon, for example. No, I'm joking. They wouldn't hire Romain Grosjean because he's not worthy of the seat. He's never going to be World Drivers' Champion unless Hamilton can't race for a substantial amount of time. He's never going to be World Champion. For that reason alone, I can't put him any higher than 5th. He's a very consistent driver. He doesn't have the racecraft though, but on his day, he can be the quickest on the grid. Right, P4, it's getting really serious now, and I've gone for Daniel Ricciardo. For me, he's a top driver. He could have had a chance to win the Drivers' Championship. He still could, I suppose, if he gets the right car and the right teammate, more importantly, if he is the outright number one. I think he has the potential. He's kind of past his potential. I think he's got the ability to be a top number one driver. I mean, he's the number one driver at Renault. Unfortunately, that's a podium scoring car at best at the moment. Is it going to get a podium this season? Maybe. I think he could sneak onto the podium at Monza, but I'm getting off topic here. So he's a top driver. He's kind of got everything. He's so good on the brakes in a car that has decent braking. He's one of the best overtakers on the grid. He's just older than the guys ahead. So he's in P4. On the podium, P3. It's everyone on Twitter's favourite driver. It's Charles Leclerc. For me, Leclerc, he just has the whole package. He's an excellent driver, and he's only been in the sport for 3 years. I think he can get better, which is scary for the elder statesman of the sport, as you've seen with Sebastian Vettel, who's 10 years older than him. Leclerc is quick, he's very racy, as we saw at Silverstone last year and Austria last year. Just pretty much name any race last year, and he probably had a battle with Verstappen at some point. He's obviously a Drivers' Champion contender at some point, probably if he gets out of Ferrari. But if he has a top car, he's going to be challenging for race wins. Are we back? My mic's just died completely in the... Mic's just died completely. I can't remember what I got up to. Where was I? So he's a top driver. He's so quick. He's one of the quickest guys on the grid, and he's brilliant at overtaking. He could be world champion one day. He just needs the right car. Probably not a Ferrari at this rate. The only issue is he's slightly mistake prone, as we've seen. I was going to say Bahrain. Bahrain wasn't his fault last year, was it? Baku was obviously a massive blow. We would have won that race had he not binned it in qualifying. And he's slightly hot-headed. You've seen his temper coming through this season. Obviously, he's very frustrated with his garbage car, but he's 95% the perfect driver. So I've just recorded the end of this video, and it was coming through my PC mic, so it sounded awful. So I'm re-recording it for you. So P2, Verstappen, 99% perfect driver for me. He's young, obviously, so he's going to get better. Can only get better. In the next 10 years, have the potential to be filled with Verstappen dominance if he gets the right car. Very rarely makes mistakes. He can do it ever so often. Hungary being the example this weekend. This year he made a mistake, but Red Bull have the best mechanics in the world, arguably, and got him racing, and he got a podium. He's the best overtaker on the grid. Only Leclerc really comes close to him, and he should be a world champion at some point. He's just that good. If he gets the right car, he has an aura about him that Senna did, very few drivers have, where if he's going for a move, he's getting past. Or if he's defending, you ain't getting past. And that's a big thing to have. Was there any doubt really who it was going to be? It's Lewis Hamilton. Who else was it going to be realistically? Is he the perfect driver? Quite possibly. It's the perfect driver combo with the car. It's got the perfect team around him. He's got a wingman. Since 2017, he's just had everything he needs to win titles, and it's exactly what he's done. Yeah, Lewis Hamilton, first. Is he the GOAT? Is he the greatest of all time? You could certainly argue that he's the greatest driver of all time. Is he the best British driver of all time? Again, you could argue that. I mean, Jim Clark, all the fans will argue will argue Jim Clark, I'm pretty sure. But he's going to surpass Schumacher's records, pretty much all of the records. His races record, probably going to surpass within the next... Well, probably going to win every race until he actually surpasses the record. And I think he'll eventually go over 100 race wins, probably get into the 110s almost. And probably break all the records and make his records unbreakable. So, Lewis Hamilton, P1. Guessing it's going to be a long video, because I'm up to 30 minutes of recording. It'll be edited down, hoping to get down to 15 minutes. But, let me know what you think. I know there's some controversial picks in this list. Hopefully it's not too bad a list. I think it's quite accurate. I know there's some debatable topics there, but let me know if you liked. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to, you don't have to, but it'd be much appreciated. We've gained subs the first time in 3 years, so that is buzzing when you look at the analytics. I'm babbling on here, but got some big videos planned soon. Deliberately keeping them quiet. We might have a collab soon as well. Trying to get some things going. So it could be an exciting few weeks. Hopefully we can push to 200 plus subs before the end of the year. It's not much of a goal, but it'd be a nice little goal. And yeah, thanks for watching if you're still here. See you again soon.